So I was at Sunrise Assisted Living the other day, and people literally lined up to get in to hear me speak. And when all 10 people for the service arrived, it's always humbling to me because there's 10 people listening to me, and there's 25 people downstairs playing bunco. And there are times when I'm tempted to talk to the director of activities and say, this isn't going to fly. 8, 10 people, maybe we should just not do it anymore. And so as I'm thinking about that, to talk to her, this one lady in her wheelchair is leaving the room after hearing, after being part of our service. And she looks at me and she says, "Pastor, please do not stop coming here. I do not have a family. And this worship service is the high point of my month." So I'm thinking to myself, good old Grumpy Don. The next time you compare your crowd to the bunco crowd, just remember her words, that being there for worship is one of the high points of her month. And so I go back into the room to get my coat, and Bill is in his wheelchair in the far corner. And Bill is the only male ever to come to one of my worship services. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you have a minute?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And by the way, Bill, and Bill is pretty articulate, I said, the lady that just left, she told me that this worship service is the high point of her month. How about you, Bill? Is it the high point of your month? And he says, "Pastor, I don't mean to bust your bubble. I like your service, but it's not the high point of my month. I'm not that lonely." So I sit and talk to Bill, and I ask him about his Christmas. What's Christmas going to be like for you, Bill? And he gets really quiet. And he starts telling me about his kids and his grandkids and how they kind of are very active and they go all over the place. And he says, "Well, I'm just going to be here by myself." He says, "For me, Christmas this year is going to be different." And I kept thinking to myself the rest of the day, his words, this year, Christmas is going to be different. I'm looking outside my office window this morning, and the snow's beginning to fall, and I look at that little wooden manger scene that sits in the front lawn. I see Mary and Joseph and the baby, and I realize again what Christmas really is. It's about a gift that's given unto us. And people that thought they were forgotten, like shepherds, are the first ones that get to witness the birth. And then there's people like the Magi, the wise men, who have very rich gifts, and they come to the manger and then they bow down and realize that Christmas is not about how much you do have, it's about what we've been given. And I realized this morning anew what this holiday is all about. And I look at that infamous sign on my wall that I read about 72 times a day. It'll never be the same, but it will be okay. And so I think about Don in room 322. Remember, he's the gentleman I finally went to see last week after promising one of you a month ago that I'd go see him right away. And I talked about how often we make promises with very good intentions, but then we forget we make them and we don't follow through. So I just wanted to call Don in room 322 to see how he's doing. And with his rather weak and raspy voice, he says, "Thanks for calling. Any chance you can bring me communion?" Well, the other day, communion in room 322 was not on my schedule. But then again, I thought about Don, and having an aneurysm and a stroke that changed his life and confines him to bed was not on his schedule either. And that's a schedule that may or may not change. So 30 minutes later, it's me and Don in room 322 sharing some bread and wine. And I realize once again what Christmas is all about. It's about the gift that is given. And then as I'm leaving, I say, Don, what's Christmas going to be like for you? And then he says to me, well, this year it's going to be different. So what are you thinking about today? Is there anybody that you know in your life that kind of needs a shepherd? Do you need a shepherd because maybe Christmas is going to be different from you, and somehow, some way you still want to capture the Spirit? I think of Walter, pretty much confined to bed, and Christmas is certainly different for him and for you and your family. I think of a lady in our church, one of your moms who's been in rehab for the last 5 months, and Christmas is going to be there with very little family. I think of one of our members who's a single parent who lost her job and is out of money, and she feels bad because she can't buy her kid the kind of gifts that she wants, and for her, Christmas is going to be different. I think of one of your dads who's a retired minister who loves to talk and loves to be a part of stuff like this, and he had an episode and he's been in rehab and he's not going to be preaching, but Christmas is going to be different. I think of a high school student that's one of your grandkids who life is in disarray and she tried to take her life. It didn't work, thank God, but now she's in a safe place, and for her, Christmas is going to be different. And so how about you? And how about me? Times do change, but the message, the gift, challenging us and empowering us and encouraging us to be kind and to be decent and to be caring and to be maybe a little more humble and gentle along the way. Because in a week or two, all this stuff's going to be gone. But that admonition to be kind and to be good and to make the world a better place, that's always going to be with us. I'm sure all of you have childhood memories, and I'm sure by now, after you get to be as old as some of us are, the memories, they become bigger than life. And we probably paint pictures that are bigger than life. I remember at my grandparents' house, every Christmas Eve, Santa Claus came. And I remember I was getting to the age where I was starting to question stuff, and Santa Claus came in, and I was trying to, Dad, where are you? Dad, Santa Claus is here. You got to be here. Well, he wasn't, so Santa Claus came in, and I kind of looked down, and Santa Claus was wearing wingtips. I recognized those wingtips. I realized more and more the gift comes in all shapes and sizes. And maybe sometimes that gift wears wingtips or flannel shirts or love buckets or is in a little case with some bread and wine in it. And Jesus, he may wear wingtips too. And for someone whose Christmas may be really different, Jesus just may look like you. Amen. If you're able to, please rise for the creed. It's on page 105.